You know
Live.
why? You know why?
Hmm.
Um, I think we're live now. Yeah, we are live.
Yay. So, hey everyone. This is Rachel Mikola from Empire Tax Professionals. And today we are going to go over the top 6 questions you must ask your accountant. I'm Rachel Mikola. I'm licensed by the IRS. I'm licensed in 50 states. And I'm here to answer all of your questions. I'm a small business tax expert as well. So please feel free to ask me anything you need, and Amandalyn and I will go over it with you.
Yay.
Um,
I'm
Let me know
excited.
how. Perfect. Sorry, say that again.
I said I'm excited. I'm excited to
Same
share
here.
this stuff because people really need to hear it.
I agree. And Amandalyn, I can't see you, by the way. So if you have any, if you want to stop me and you want to add any of your insights, please stop me at any time. I know you have a
Of
lot
course.
of wisdom to share. So stop me at any time. And I always love your insights.
Thank you. Thank you. Sure, we'll do.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So the topics we'll cover today is we're going to go over, are they licensed EA or a CPA? That's one of the questions that a business owner should be asking their accountant. Are they available when you need them? Do you get a final review? We're going to go over these questions, and I'll go over why you need to be asking these questions to the accountant, because it's protecting you. And I'll share specific stories why you should be asking those questions, because it did hurt a lot of our clients that came to us from other accountants.
Yes. So
So again,
basically, it's like you're interviewing an accountant, right?
exactly.
It's kind of like you're interviewing them because you're trusting this person with your finances. So these are like the top 6 key secret questions that are like absolutely necessary to ask to make sure that you're protecting yourself. So, all
Exactly.
right, sorry, Rachel, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you for adding that. Perfect. So I have a decade of experience as an entrepreneur and a licensed enrolled agent. We saved clients hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of dollars in taxes. So I'm really excited to share our wisdom with you so you can, save thousands of dollars in taxes as well. So the first question that you really want to ask your accountant is, are they a licensed CPA or an EA? And you really want to know the difference. A licensed enrolled agent is licensed in 50 states. They have authorization to represent you in front of the IRS if you have a tax notice, or if you need a payment plan, whatever it is, they're able to help you, assist all of those representation matters. A CPA is licensed in one state, and a lot of times they don't specialize in taxation. A enrolled agent, our exams are actually specialized in taxation. So a lot of times you want to work with an EA, but it really depends on your specific situation. The reason that I say that this is one of the most important questions that you should ask is because I had a client come to me in my New York City office um, about 10 years ago. I think it was years ago. She's still a client today, thankfully. And I remember her coming to me. She was in her 60s, about husband and wife, married. And they said, "Hey, Rachel, I'm not really sure what's happening. My accountant is going, asking me all these questions. And she assumed that he did her bookkeeping. And when I Googled this guy, he was not licensed, and he was not licensed at all. So I said, let's make up a name, because I don't want to mention her name. Let's make up, I don't know, come up with a name.
Jane. Her name's
Jane, yeah,
Jane.
right. So I said, Jane, is your accountant licensed? And she goes, yes, Rachel, he has to be licensed. He has so many people in his office, and there's so many people that come to him. He has one of the biggest offices in the city. And I said, okay, let's Google him. We couldn't find anything. And then later, a few months later, we found out, and this is a true story, that he was stealing money from her. Literally, like, she wanted me to go to court and attest and all these little like crazy things. But he was,
Wow.
yes, and she's a client still. So he was stealing money. Not only that, she had an issue with her eye. I think her husband has had an issue with his eye too. And they didn't even have time to look at their statement. So they relied on their CPA or an accountant to tell them what's happening in their account. And when I looked at her statements, we saw Con Ed being paid twice. We saw, it was the scariest thing. I felt so bad for her. Oh my God. It was like, oh, my heart is like, whew, it was just, I felt so bad for her. And she said, Rachel, I don't even have the money to buy a new bag. Okay, Madeline, this client makes, I don't know, over $500,000 a year. And she goes, I make all this money. How could it be that I make all this money? I can't even buy a nice bag for myself. And her daughter was going through, some cancer treatments, and
Wait, so
I
was he
said,
a licensed CPA or no? He was
no,
faking it?
he was faking it.
Wow.
He was faking it. Not only that, she had an assistant. This is the craziest story. You can't even make this up. She had an assistant who was her family member, and she was stealing money from them. And
Wow.
yes, it was the craziest thing. So we saw Con Ed being paid twice. We saw withdrawals coming out of their account. And remember, they're in their 60s. They're not looking at their statements monthly. They just assume my accountant has it handled, right? And I'm like, Jane, look at your statements. And she was just like in my physical office in the city crying to me. And she's like, this is crazy. So she ended up suing the person in the office, and she did get most of the money back. And I think they have to pay her back like over 10 years or something.
So I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know if someone's actually licensed? They can tell you all day that they're licensed, but how do you, the consumer client, know for sure if they're actually a legitimate practicing CPA or enrolled agent?
That's an amazing question. You honestly could Google their exact name, and normally the credentials will come up. The IRS also has a PTIN, or Preparer Tax ID Number directory. So you would, like, my name is listed on the PTIN directly on the directory, because every single person preparing returns need to be listed on there. IRS, has a list of licensed, active enrolled agents. The CPA board probably has the same exact thing. So you want to make sure that your accountant is truly licensed. A lot of accountants, they look the feel. Like, this guy probably looked really professional with a huge office. And there's actually another accountant nearby in Queens who has the same exact thing. And a lot of people are honestly ignorant. They don't know that he is not licensed. They don't
Right.
know. They think he's licensed. They're like, oh my God, he has a line up, up the block. But when I Google his name, I'm like, I'm sorry, but this guy is not licensed. And when we see on the second page of the 1040, we don't see a credential behind the name. So you want to make sure, just like you go to a doctor, you ask specific questions, and
Right.
you want to make sure, like, if you have a heart problem, you go to someone that's a heart specialist and who can
Right.
actually help you, right?
Absolutely. Rachel, we have a question. So
Sure.
Ava's asking, thank you, Ava, for the question. Yes, thank you. It says, so is it better to get an EA? Well, I think that depends on what you need done, right, Rachel?
Exactly. Yeah. So I know a lot of CPAs that also prepare returns, and enrolled agents that prepare returns too. I mean, a lot of people also think like the license makes the most difference. We actually prepare a lot of returns for CPAs that are licensed, obviously, but they don't know
Mhm.
how to prepare returns. So
Right.
they focus on audits, they focus on financial accounting, they focus on other areas. The credential is the first question you should be asking, but that's not the only decision you should be, making a decision on just that question. You should ask, do you have experience helping me? And I'm going to go over the next questions, like, how many years have you been doing this? What if I get audited? And we'll go over those questions. But one of the most important questions is, you really need to make sure that they're licensed. Google their name, make sure they are active, because Circular 230, we have specific rules that we need to follow if we are licensed by the IRS, and the CPA has the same exact thing. Same thing with attorneys. We all have regulations that we need to follow, but a bookkeeper does not have any regulations,
Agree.
unfortunately, right? Because they're not licensed, so they're not under the umbrella of someone looking at them. Same thing with, admin. If an admin is really preparing your bookkeeping, nobody's really watching them. It is the business owner's responsibility to make sure they are hiring the right person for their business. And not
Right.
hiring the right person will hurt you, unfortunately. Okay.
Agree.
And I'm telling you, Madeline, this is a true story. I did not make any of it up. It's crazy. One of her daughters, um, ended up dying. And the crazy thing is,
Oh,
like, I remember crying in my office. She couldn't afford to buy her daughter medication. Can you believe that?
that's terrible.
I know. She couldn't afford to buy, and I'm like, "Oh my god." And here her assistant is stealing money from her business. And her husband like had one eye covered, and he was working in the business and he couldn't even focus or reading the statement. So I mean, having that,
And
I
then
don't
at their age as well, right? Their age will have something to do with like
agreed. Yeah, they're
really
like
the
65,
that they're able
70.
to actually like look through their financials and know what's going on. It's a
Right.
shame. People take advantage of the older people too, you know?
Exactly. That's really true. And now she told me she has no money for retirement. I mean, she still has her business, but she has no money for retirement. I remember speaking to her. She's like, I'm thinking of getting a job, being a bus driver. And I'm like, how? You built this beautiful multi-million dollar business. And she's like, I don't have any money. And
That's
it's shocking.
insane.
I know, it's
It's
really
so sad.
sad. And this is a true story. Like, this client is still our client. And it's a true story. So you just don't hear these stories on Google, obviously. So you really want to make sure that when you hire a professional, they do the job and they're looking out for you on these specific things. Okay, let's move
Yes,
on.
ma'am.
Oh, cool. So yeah. So so you want to ask, like, how many years of experience do they have? The more years, obviously, the better. Lots of accountants are using, to gain their initial experience. So you may not be getting the most out of your returns, which means that, when you a lot like probably will. I mean, I think I see a lot of accountants that are like trying to quit their jobs, and they're like, yeah, I could probably do this, and I could probably prepare a trust return, or we don't do any trust returns because I don't want to touch something that I don't know. But a lot of accountants won't do that. They'll just say, you know what, I'll give it a try. Let me see if this makes sense. And then you may be able to miss some deductions because they don't know every single tax deduction to assist you. So making
Yep.
sure that the accountant has the right experience to help you, you have to ask them, because they're not going to say, oh, I don't have experience with this. You have to ask, do you, like, for e-commerce clients, you need to say, like, do you have experience with e-com? Do you have
Yeah.
experience with, right, marketing agencies? Do you have
Specific thing.
experience?
I get a lot of people who ask me questions like that too, Rachel, on calls.
Mhm.
I take most of the as you know, you obviously you know. I take I take all of the calls when people are inquiring about services, and I hear that a lot. Um, people just really they don't know if what they do is something we're experienced in. So,
Exactly.
do you
Right.
have experience in real estate? Do you have experience in restaurants? Do you have experience in this, that, or whatever? And
Right.
so it's important because every business will have a different list of deductions that they're able to utilize depending on what the IRS
Exactly.
considers reasonable for them for their type of
Exactly.
business. So,
Mhm.
it does matter. It does matter if your accountant has experience in that field.
Right. I'm glad actually people are asking you that, because now we know that they are an educated buyer, and we want them to, we really want them to ask those specific questions, because you really need to know. It's super
Hmm.
important. I'm actually going to share my father's story a little bit later here, because that's another horror story. But I mean, the goal of these horror stories, is not to put fear into business owners. It's
Right.
really, right? Because I don't want to do that. And I hate that. But I really
Yeah.
want to make sure that business owners really know what questions to ask, because their whole life, their whole retirement can be on the line if they're not asking these right questions, just like my story with the first client that I mentioned.
And legal issues, right? Then not even to mention the legal issues. Forget
Right.
monetarily and what that could affect, as far as your finances go, but legally, your responsibilities and those obligations and upholding those. Making sure that whoever's taking care of you is not putting you in any legal kind of trouble.
Exactly. I agree. So the next question that I would ask is, are they available when you need them? Are they
Oh, this is the big one. Sorry, Rachel, I have to interrupt you. This is
Go
the
ahead.
hugest one. This is the hugest one, you guys. I hear this all the time. My accountant is MIA. My accountant will not respond to my messages. My accountant doesn't pick up the phone. I hired her, I paid her a retainer, and I have never heard from her again. I hear this. I take 5 calls a day. I hear 3 people tell me it out of
Wow.
5.
Wow.
It's a thing. It's really a thing. So be careful, because people will take your money and then just disappear.
Right. And when you're licensed, you could actually complain if they are licensed. But if they're a bookkeeper, I mean, where are you going to go? You can't, there's nowhere that you could complain to. So make sure you hire a licensed professional and you pay them. And then, because they're like, obviously these franchises, I don't want to mention any names around the area that that are open up until April 15th. And after April 15th, they're no longer around.
Wow.
They're not, right? They're
You guys
close.
know who we're talking about, the ones on every other street that have the
Exactly.
balloons outside during tax season and tell you, come here, we'll get you $6,000 in a refund. We don't know
Right.
how, but we will.
Right.
Those
Exactly.
people.
And then what happens? You get that refund, and then the IRS notice season begins after tax season, because the IRS has seasons, right? The IRS is processing thousands and millions of returns this season. And then the second season, they're like reviewing their returns. They're sending out notices, adjustment notices, discrepancy notices, audit letters. And a lot of people get those notices the second quarter, the third quarter. And then they're going to go back to their own accountant, because their own accountant prepared that return. You don't want to hire another accountant and re-explain your entire situation over and over again. You really want to go back to your accountant and say, hey, you remember we discussed this and you told me to do this? I got a notice. Can you please help me with this? So they're able to help you. But if the franchise or if the accounting office is closed after April 15th, that's when we get a lot of our clients, because the accounting offices are closed. I remember we had a few clients call us on December 31st, and I was in the office. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm working on New Year's Eve. And it's like, yo, I got this IRS notice. I have 2 weeks to respond, or 10 days. That's what they normally give you. And I'm like, all right, I can help you, reach out to me after a couple of days. And we were able to assist this client, but that's like New Year's Eve we were working. But most accountants are really closed after April 15th. So you want to have this also in writing. These questions you want to ask in writing, because people will, and I've seen people tell me this, they will tell you what you want to hear. And we've had this a lot. They'll say, yep, we're able to help you. We're able to, especially with like marketing agencies, or they say, yes, we could give you a certain result. And then when you're done working with them, it's like, no, I never promised you that, or no, I never said that. So you always want to make sure, right, that you're protected and you have these answers in writing. So one is, are they open? Are you open all year round? Are you available to answer any questions? And what is your turnaround time? How soon do you take to reply to the emails? Because we have a 24-hour to 48-hour turnaround time.
Promise. It's a promise to our clients. We call it our promise.
Right.
So, we had to make it that way, right? Because we have learned with running an accounting firm that accountants they're numerical people, as that's just who they are internally. And so writing isn't really necessarily one of their favorite things to do.
Or communication.
Yes, it's hard to be able to kind of stop your mental capacity from numbers all day to now being this very communicative person. And so we have a promise to our clients, and we made this a thing at our firm, that you have a 24 to 48 hour response time to all emails, or pick up the phone and call them. But it's a necessity, and we promise our clients that experience. Rachel, I did want to say really quickly that while you were speaking, Ava commented and she said, that happened to me too. The company, whoever they were, they just set me up an LLC, and they didn't give me any advice about different options with it, and I never got my documents.
Wow. We see this often. I'm telling you, this is like behind the scenes horror stories from accounting that, we hear this so often, but on Google, you can't even hear these stories. I am so sorry. Reach out to them, email them, call them, and get your LLC documents.
If they have a corporate office, I would reach out to the corporate office for sure.
Right. And send them an email and make sure you document it. So I would do that. I'm so sorry about that. And then the other question is, so Amanda, actually, I want to add to what you said. If we have a client that's asking us a question and we don't have a response within 24 to 48 hours, Our process is we reply back to the client and say, hey, I received your email. I will get back to you on Friday. So even if like we don't have an answer to the question that they have or an answer to or whatever they need, let's say they need a letter and it may take 2 to 3 days, or they need their tax returns or something like that, we would at least respond and say, hey, I'll get back to you X, Y, and Z. So our internal communication process has increased and has allowed clients to have that peace of mind, because a lot of accountants come to us. A lot of clients come to us because their accountants are MIA, which is unacceptable for us.
Yeah.
And then the other question is, what happens if you get audited? Can they represent you? So if you're not licensed by the IRS, if you're not a licensed enrolled agent, not a licensed CPA, or a licensed attorney, those are the only people that are able to represent you if you ever get audited. So you always want to make sure that the person that's preparing your returns can help you with your audit, because they know exactly what they did on your return. So that's why it's super important to make sure and ask them, are you licensed? And if I ever get audited, are you able to assist me? And obviously there are different types of audits. You know, I went to audits where I've sat with the IRS in the IRS office, and there may be an additional fee for that if you're traveling, or if it's a mail-in audit where the IRS is looking for specific documents and you just fax it in or mail it to them. There are different types of audits, so it really depends. But you want to make sure that whichever audit you ever have, you want to make sure that you are protected. And I think I have this here. If the CPA or EA is not available, do they have other people on their team to assist you? So I've had, a daycare years ago come to my office, and she started crying to me. 3 years of returns she did not have. She didn't know what was going on, and her accountant was sick in the hospital and passed away. There's no team members. There's nothing. She's like, I don't know what to do. And then it's crazy. The craziest thing is, just to make the story even real, oh my God, I just got chills. She was crying. She was complaining about her husband. And then Amanda Lynn, 6 months later, her husband passes away in a motorcycle crash. And she is like, I regret, complaining about him. And oh my God, she was like, she misses him. He was the one that was also dealing with all the finances. And she was in tears. I'm like, okay, your accountant passed away and you don't even know what's happening.
She doesn't know how to get her returns or anything because he's
Nothing.
gone. And so she doesn't know what to do to even prove that she filed her returns the last 3 years. Wow.
Exactly. And then her and her husband come to my office, and they hire us, and I'm helping them. And then like 6 months later, obviously she comes again with her daughter, and she gives me documents, and she complained about her husband, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden he passes away. And now she has now we're starting from scratch. We're like, okay, let's get your bookkeeping up to date. Let's get your tax returns filed. And within a few months, we were able to get her all caught up. But what a year. I was like, oh my God, what a crazy year for her. So
we really do support people in all seasons of life. And
it's true.
And I find it really is sometimes taking calls, because sometimes I've had people cry, and this is real. You can make up a story and say, oh yeah, they cry on the phone. No, I have people really cry on calls. I just had one last Friday.
You told me. People
with their finances, when they really don't know what to do, or if they're going through a divorce or a death or whatever it is, and the finances is just that extra thing that's pushing them over the edge where they just can't deal. And it's insane.
It's hard.
I think accounting is one of the things that business owners sometimes leave on the back burner.
Right.
Especially when they first start out or they start hitting some bigger numbers. It always gets scary when it's like, oh, I'm going to have to pay the IRS something.
Right.
That's when the scary stuff starts. But if you wait to the last minute, it gets way worse. It can get way worse. And then you have everything pile on you all at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I did want to say to recap on what you were just saying there, Rachel. Can you go back to the last one? Sorry. You said what happens about the audit?
Oh, this one.
The audit. Yes. I wanted to add on, there can be nothing better than a licensed person representing you for an audit, when they were the one who prepared it, right? Who better to defend you? They've
Right.
already prepared your return. If it's a good CPA, if it's a good EA, they're going to be able to defend the work that they prepared on your behalf.
Right.
So that's the goal
Because
there.
they
Having
know.
somebody, right, they know
Sorry.
what they did on your return. They know how it was prepared. So essentially it should be a piece of cake for them to defend you.
Right, exactly. And then now you're able to sleep at night, because if you hired someone from one of the franchises, which we had people come to us from, one of the franchises, and they're like, I got this notice, and I'm like, okay, where's your accountant? And they literally told us they're not available, or they're closed, and I can't reach them, or I can't find them. And it's funny. I had a client years ago. He got a notice from one of the franchises, and I said, why? I was like reviewing the notice, and he goes, yeah, they just gave me 2 kids from somebody else's um,
No,
returner. I'm like, so
no.
you don't know these 2 dependents on your return? He goes, no, I never met them. And I'm like, well, that's why you got the notice. Like, who would do that? A licensed professional. I would never do that. I mean, that's what I would think. I would
Oh
never.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
he told me that. And it was from one of the top 3 franchises. And he, of course, got a huge refund. But I'm like, now you need to pay it all back. And what's the point of getting all this money if you need to pay it all back? Like, you really want to make sure that the accountant that's preparing your return is doing everything legal. They're asking you a lot of and specific questions to make sure that you're able to take every single legal deduction on your return.
Mhm.
And if you want to deduct, let's say, your home office or your travel, or your meals, there are specific additional questions that they need to be asking to make sure that you are legally allowed to deduct those expenses, versus, yeah, sure, your home office, let me deduct it here. And yeah, sure, your vehicle, sure, I'll take that too. And your kids, yep, I could put it on this line. They think it's data entry, and
Yeah.
accounting is more like tax law, right? It's like, if you want to deduct, let's say, a gift, the maximum is $25 per person per gift. I've seen people deduct $5,000 worth of gifts, on the gift return. I'm sorry, on the return that it says like thousands of dollars on gifts. And I'm like, okay, so you gave over, I don't know, 150, 200 people gifts, and you have names for every single gift that you issued? And he goes, no. And I'm like, okay, so this is a red flag. This is a red flag. The IRS is going to ask you questions on who you gave a gift to, because the maximum deduction for a gift is $25. And meals, there's another, if you want to deduct your meals, you have to have the actual receipt, and it has to say who you ate with, what you spoke about, the name of the restaurant, the date, the amount. It has to be documented, versus just putting meals on the return, and now you don't have any backup for it. So it gets really scary when you don't have professionals helping you. Okay, let's go over. So, do you get the final review? So, I had another doctor years ago came to me, and he was so frustrated with his accountant. And he said, Rachel, I don't even know how I owe $8,000. And I said, why? He goes, on the 15th, my accountant just filed a return without me looking at it, without me reviewing it. And the next day, she got so tired from tax season, and she went on vacation. And I'm like, this is a true story. I promise you. And I'm like, you can't even make this up, because like, I got
That's
this
so
letter.
funny.
I know. He's like, I got this letter, $8,000. I don't even know where. I don't even have my return. She told me to call her after 2 weeks, because it was after tax season. And he's like, I'm so frustrated. Is this legal? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not really legal, because you're supposed to sign signature forms and to give your accountant permission to e-file those returns. So I don't know if you did
Yes, yes,
that,
yes, yes.
right? But he's like, I'm done with her. He left, and he's a client of ours now. But how do you e-file a return without the client approving it? So one of the questions that you want to ask your new accountant is, will you send me the returns before, in advance, so I can review it and ask you any questions before you submit it? That's one of the key questions that every single business owner really needs to ask.
Yeah.
And you want to, I mean, guys, even if you're business owners and you don't understand a tax return, you're going to be filing for the next 20 to 30 years.
Right.
Right. So they really have to understand the basics, right? Like line 7 is your W-2 income. Line 11 or 12 or whatever, that's your net business income.
I agree.
Right? Look at
So
Schedule C.
reviewing it, I think that goes into the audit thing too. Like people need to normalize really just kind of really reviewing your return. So
Right.
the way it works is they prepare your return and they're supposed to send you a draft, right? And this is all for a virtual experience, obviously, or if you're working with a private accountant, even if they're working in email. If you're not sitting with someone face to face, then this is the way it should go.
Right.
And they send you a draft and then you review it. And the problem there is where it lies, is that they don't know what they're looking at. It just looks like a
Exactly.
bunch of crazy Japanese written on a numbers, and you don't know what any of it means. And I realized that. I mean, before I ever worked at an accounting firm, you just did your taxes each year. I went to a franchise. I didn't know that,
Right.
accountants were better. Like people just don't know.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
maybe Rachel, this is something we could talk about. Maybe kind of going over the first couple pages or key things on a tax return to pay attention to when you're doing a review.
I would love that. That's
Yeah.
genius, actually. We should do that. We should get like a dummy, a sample tax return and go
Mhm.
over it and say, this is where you look at your total W-2 income. This is where you see the Schedule C income. And then look at the Schedule C and look at your gross income. Look at the details of the expenses. Review the net. Review your Schedule A, for example. Look at the mortgage interest, the real estate taxes, the charitable contributions.
Mhm.
Look at every line. I mean, it
Just
should,
kind of give them an overall view of what these lines mean,
right.
so that when they have it in front of them, they get to understand what is actually happening there and if it makes sense to their
Right.
situation too. If it
Exactly.
looks right.
And if it's inaccurate, then you say my income was not 300,000 or whatever it is. My income
Right.
was X, Y, and Z, because at least you know the income that you had or that you made, because you're able to think about it. I actually have another really interesting story. Years ago in the city, I had this very wealthy lady come to my office, and in the city, it was on 34th Street. She was like literally, I think, across the street. I was so inspired by her, okay? Because she was like, oh my God, she makes all this money. And she honestly looked depressed, but whatever. She's like, Rachel, I'm really having hardships, money in her business. She was having some hardships. And she's like, I was also really surprised, honestly, that she came to me 10 years ago, because I was just like, I was really starting out, but I had the urge to help people, and I had a mentor that was helping us.
As
So
always, which by the way, Rachel, sorry, the
yeah,
girls have comments saying that they would love that lesson about the tax return. So that's going to be our next one, I think.
okay, perfect. That's great. Yeah, we should do that.
Okay.
So she came to the office and she said, Rachel, my income does not look right. And I said, okay, let me look at your bookkeeping. Let me see your numbers. Let me review it. And Madeline, you are going to be shocked. Her accountant, okay, so listen. She got 780,000, something like a high over 700,000
Gross?
alone, gross. Yeah, a loan. She got a loan from Wells Fargo. And that business loan was deposited to her business account. And her accountant reported that as income. When I heard that, I almost died.
No. No.
I'm like, what?
We're seeing people have that problem with the COVID SBA loans too,
Oh, right.
remember?
Right. That's not income. That is,
Accountants don't, some accountants, I'm telling you people,
I'm
I'm
like,
telling you,
are you
loan is not
serious?
income, you guys.
Exactly. So I'm like, wait a second. So your income is not like $2 million over? She's like, no, I never made that much. So we started looking at every single deposit from the entire year, January 1st until December 31st. And we found the issue that she got a loan, and it clearly says Wells Fargo loan. Okay. 700 something $1,000. And that was reported as income. And we had to amend her return to remove that income, right? Because it's not income, to remove that loan. And I was like, wow, how many?
What is amending a return, Rachel? What does that mean?
That means that
Just for people who don't know, sorry.
Right, no problem. So it means like you have to change the return to actually report the corrected income. So let's say her income was $1 million, and there was a loan of $500,000. Now on the 1040X, or it's an amended return, you have the original numbers, you have the changes, and now you're telling the IRS what the actual numbers are, because we removed the $780,000 loan from the income, and now there's a line on the 1040X or on the corporate amendment where the IRS wants to know why you are amending. They want to know, and you have to give them a whole paragraph saying, prior accountant, I would say something like prior accountant misapplied loan to income, and now we're removing the income. And the IRS, that may be, thankfully she never got audited, but it is an audit risk, because now you're removing $780,000 of income on the return, and now you have a lesser income, and it's just a high audit risk. So really hiring someone that understands how to do your bookkeeping. And I'm going to go over that next, because asking your accountant, if you're a business owner, you want to make sure that they review your bookkeeping and then prepare your returns, because most accountants don't do that. They don't review your bookkeeping. They assume your bookkeeping is done the right way, and then they prepare your returns from like the wrong financials. So back to my
sorry, I just wanted to say really quickly, that's another big reason why when we have new clients on board and they say, oh, I have 2 months done with my old accountant, and I'm like, well, we want to start fresh this year, because we need to trust our own bookkeeping. If it's very minimal, then maybe we can do it. But I don't like to untake clients unless they're willing and able to allow us to do the full sweep of catch up and clean up. Even if they had a prior accountant, we don't know that accountant's credentials. We don't know how well versed they are in their field. So that's just something that I really, really
agree.
I tell clients that all the time. Haroon, we can definitely get that for you. No problem at all. Drop your DM us your email address if you can.
Yep. So guys, make sure if you have an accountant, you want to review your returns, you want to review your numbers, you want to know how they came up with those numbers. If they don't make sense, it is your responsibility to ask questions. And the more you ask questions, 5 years down the road, you're not going to ask the same questions, because it's a learning experience. And guys, I always say I would rather have my finances in perfect shape. Than my health, I would say, because I don't know if that's actually accurate. Health obviously is number one, but I think if you screw up your finances, you are messing up your entire retirement. Okay, so I had another client, I'm not going to mention his name. It's so hard to not mention their names, it's like, it's so hard because they're so dear to me. I had another client in his 60s. He was an insurance broker, and he overpaid in taxes by thousands. I'm really telling you, I would say at least 300 to 400K in taxes, because he was an insurance broker on a Schedule C, single member LLC. His accountant was very small, and he's in his 60s. He doesn't even own his own home.
I think I know who this guy is. Yeah, that's sad.
I'm like, how? I'm like, why? If you were the right entity from day one in your 20s, and you were saving, at least like 20 to 30K a year in taxes, you would have had your own home by now. You would have paid less taxes by now. And then you would and I say that, then you would be able to afford to eat better, right? Because salad is more expensive than pizza. Right. You know what I mean? So your finances,
I can't with her.
Right? It's just your finances really flourish the rest of all parts of your life. You're able to work less. You're able to go to the gym. You're able to live in a better area. You're able to take your kids to private schools. You're able to do so much if you really take charge of this department of your life. And understanding your finances is one of the most important things as a business owner. Every single business owner really needs to do. I'm really passionate about that. So let's do it. Okay. The other thing, the next question is, how often will you get monthly financial statements? So we have a lot of clients, that they sometimes get their financial statements and sometimes they don't. I remember speaking to another doctor, I think he's a chiropractor, who had a full-time admin in office, and I was interviewing him to see if he may be a good fit for a client of ours.
Mhm.
And I'm like to him, okay, you have a full-time admin doing your bookkeeping. He goes, yep, she enters all my invoices, she does everything. So I said,
Mhm.
doctor, how often do you get your financial statements? He was like, maybe once a year. And I said, okay. I said, why? He goes, because the admin is so busy. She just gets to it whenever she has the time. Like, we get phone calls and they do a million other things. And I
Right.
said, but how do you, he's like, we're really busy. I'm like, that's awesome. That's amazing. That's why you need an outsourced bookkeeping service to make sure that it's done. So I said, wait a second. So you have an admin doing the books whenever she wants. You never
Mhm.
really see reports. He goes, no. And
Well, Rachel, think about it.
yeah,
She's probably doing everything there,
probably.
right? So poor girl has
I
been
know.
added the books on top of everything else. People don't realize how important it is to be, as a business owner, to be able to see what's going in and out of your company on a monthly basis, to be able to make projections, to make,
Exactly.
quarterly
To,
goals,
exactly.
and
To
like,
pay the
you
estimated
know,
taxes too. That's
yes, yes,
important,
yes, yes, exactly. That's one
right?
of the biggest reasons, yes. But, I just feel like common sense, right? Even if you're not thinking about making those estimated tax payments on a quarterly basis, to me, I would want to know, okay, how much can I spend in marketing? How much can I
Right.
spend on bonuses
Hiring.
or whatever it is? Like,
Right.
that's crazy to not know your numbers as a
Right.
business owner.
Exactly. Exactly. So knowing that is super, super important. And the other question that I would ask is like, do they know how to reconcile PayPal statements? So do they know how, if they don't know how to reconcile PayPal statements, that's a problem. Like, or PayPal
Yeah.
accounts. We have a lot of e-commerce clients and their accountants don't know how to reconcile their PayPal statements. I actually had another client who came to us, I think 2 years ago. She was so stressed out. Oh my God. Like just talking to her stressed me out. She had to switch to CPAs, and most CPAs don't know how to do bookkeeping, right? They specialize in doing financial accounting, international, and other things. They don't really, and she literally said she had to request a refund from two CPAs that did not know how to reconcile her PayPal accounts because it's complicated.
Yep.
And she's like, finally I met with you guys. She's still a client, thankfully. And she's like, I just don't understand, why is it so hard? And hearing this from clients is a lot of accountants, they're local, they really focus on like business owners that are attorneys or restaurants or like local,
Yes.
right? They're like focused on like the local shop up the block, but they don't really have experience with the Amazon, the Shopify accounts, the PayPal accounts, and the other like Stripe, the other e-com accounts that come with your e-commerce business. So if you have an e-com business, you really want to make sure that you go to an accountant that has years of e-commerce experience, because the accounts are very different and a local accountant most likely won't know what to do. So that's a really, important question.
Yes, for sure. I totally agree with that.
Okay. Do you want to add anything or I could continue?
I
Sorry.
think it just goes back to the same thing where we're asking them if they have experience in their field. It's a really big question to ask. Does your accountant have they worked with someone in XYZ field? Have you worked
Exactly.
with a digital marketer? Have you worked with a real estate agent or a doctor? Whatever you are, ask your accountant, do you have other clients that do this?
Exactly. Exactly. And then put it in writing. Put it in writing because they're going to say yes. They're going to tell you everything you want to hear. But I am a huge believer in putting things in writing because I really got screwed in the past years. And I just learned I'm going to ask all my questions in writing and let them respond just so it's like a mini contract. So we could always go back to it. And I know exactly what they're able to do, what they're able to help me with, what the deliverables will be, and
Right.
it's just a clear communication. So it's
I tell
really
people I like to give simple examples on the calls that I take. Like, what if I'm talking to someone who owns a construction company? I'm like, well, there's certain things that you can deduct in your company, but deductions are never standard. They really are per business, and th're different. I mean, of course there are the standard deductions, but when it comes to deducting the things that are the niche of the business, I'm
Right.
not going to give you deductions for hair and makeup like I would give an influencer. You're a
Right.
construction guy. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
Right.
there are things specific to each person's line of work that are deductible. If
Exactly.
but people don't know that, I feel. Like they don't really
That's true.
realize.
That's true. Right. I actually had a client years ago. She came to us and her accountant put ClickFunnels and Kajabi as personal expenses. And I said, why? And she goes, and we asked her accountant because I was curious what her old accountant would say. Why are
Right.
all these software expenses on personal expenses? And she goes, wait a second, I thought those were games or like, whatever.
I remember you told me that.
Right?
Yes, that's so funny. And
Like,
those are like
how?
softwares.
Exactly. I'm like, that's a marketing software, Kajabi, ClickFunnels, all these other like softwares that they have. She's like, and then we had to amend her return to
How
include.
does that? Why would you think that Kajabi's expensive?
I know. I mean, it's
You
like
think
what,
she's paying, $300 for the initial or the annual or whatever, $600? I don't know what it is. But even still, that's a
It,
game. Like, come on,
yes, I
people.
know exactly. Or she thought that they were gambling or something. I don't know. But we saw so
Hilarious.
many expenses under owner's draws that were not being deducted. And it was actually scary to see because we know as accountants where to look. And when you look at your owner's draws, we saw, whoa, all of these expenses were paid from the business account, but they were not being deducted. And I'm like, did you see this? And she goes, oh my God, no. I said, okay, we just found you a couple of $1,000s. Let's amend your return. And let's include this as a business expense because they're obviously software and you're able to deduct it. And we did. We did. And
That's
moving
insane.
forward, isn't that crazy? So a lot of local accountants don't know what Kajabi is. They don't know what ClickFunnels is. And then she traveled to Orlando for the funnel hacking marketing event.
Mhm.
And they also thought that was personal. And I'm like, oh my God. So
You know what's so funny?
yeah,
You guys, this all interacts with each other. If that accountant had known about or had worked with other marketing agencies or digital marketers or whoever, they would have known that immediately those things were deductible for her. But because they had no experience with those types of clients, she had to go through the whole process of an amendment. It's a
exactly.
shame.
It is a shame. It is. So knowing, your accountant and making sure they have the right experience
Hmm.
and in the right industry is super important. But you know what, Amanda? I also want to share something before we get into this next topic is most clients, they really get burned by their accountants. And I've seen this for a few years by their friends referring them to that accountant. So a lot of people, in the past years came to us. And the first question I said, like, did you just Google this company and you just went to
That's
them?
so
And they go,
funny.
no, my friend referred me. And I said, really? I said, yeah, they do a good job for my friend. So I just asked my friend, do you know any good CPA or accountants? And they referred me. So just because somebody refers you to a good accountant does not mean that you should not be asking these questions because you normally assume that your friend got this, right? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, if my friend, Amanda Lynn, if you refer me to someone, like, I know that you're amazing. And I'm like, I'm
Same
not
to
going to
you.
ask
You gave
any
me the
questions,
best dentist ever. Like you're like, go to him. He's going to take care of you right away. I didn't have to wait or anything. So yes, friends
right?
will give you good referrals.
Right.
But girl, I don't know. You got to be careful with sometimes.
I'm telling you, I've seen it too. So don't think that your friend asked those right questions. So even if you get referred to another accountant, please still ask these questions because they're super important.
Yes,
Okay, they
seriously.
really, yeah, it's super, like, I mean, you've seen the stories that we've shared, people not having a home at 60 and not having enough money for retirement that they need to, start working as a bus driver. So you want to make sure that you're saving money now and you're able to have enough money when you retire. And it
And that
will,
you're legally being compliant, you guys. That's the
right,
biggest one because
it
you don't
is.
want a surprise. Please.
Exactly. That's right. That is the biggest one because you could save thousands of dollars in taxes and then the IRS may audit you, the IRS may ask you specific questions and then now you have to pay it all back. So
Yep.
being compliant is super important. I actually had another client that I'm going to share after. Actually, let me share it now. So Madeline, I don't think if I ever share this with you, but I had a daycare client who used to be a police officer. Crazy, right? She was like a
Oh, I don't know this
really,
one. I don't know this one. Go
yes.
ahead.
Oh my God, she's such an amazing woman. She's a police officer. Really, she told me stories how she really motivated people in jail, and she was just a beautiful woman. And she had a daycare. She was a major entrepreneur. Worked 9 to 5 at this at the jail facility, and then she had like 2 or 3 workers at the daycare. And she was very busy, obviously did not have time to work on her taxes or anything like that. And
Mhm.
she comes to me in my city location and she said, Rachel, I've been paying $1,000 every quarter. Is that the minimum tax for New York State? I go, no. I go, can I see all your documents? So she gives me a pack of all her documents. She comes to me with her beautiful police uniform. And I'm like, oh my God, this is scary, but okay, I'll take care. And I'm like, holy shit, you have a daycare, you have this, you have so much going on. It was so beautiful to see. And I'm like, oh my God, you've been paying $1,000 every quarter. You're not paying the tax, you're paying the penalty. And she
Oh
goes,
my
what?
God.
She goes, I already paid. And after I calculated it, she paid $14,000. So 14 quarters, $1,000 every quarter. She just got the bill. She was making really good money. She was just paying it $1,000 per quarter. And I'm like, no, that's the standard penalty that New York State gives you if you don't file your payroll returns. And she goes, this is what happens when I'm so busy that I don't even have the time to review my finances. And she's like, can I get it back? I'm like, I don't think so. You paid it. Now we have to fight to get it back. And she didn't file these payroll returns, quarterly. She's like, oh my God, I'm just tired. I give up. I really need your help. Help me with all these services. And then later, and again, you can't make this up, like later, a few months ago or a year or so, she had to close her daycare because it got burned. Like there was a fire
Wow.
in the daycare, and she just closed it. So I had to help her like close the company and all that. But isn't that crazy? Like,
That's
she's been
insane. People are
right,
making payments, they don't even know what they're paying. They just
right,
know that they say
exactly.
they sent the bill, the IRS sent the bill, you get scared, you pay it. That's it.
Right. Exactly. And she was just working so hard, like really working so hard. And my father did the same exact thing. You work so hard and you're just giving it all away. Sometimes it's just best to like step back, understand your
Mhm.
finances, try to cut your expenses, save money on taxes, see what you're doing, be intentional, and then you don't need to work so hard because you're going to keep more of what you're making, you
I
know?
think it's really, really important, and I tell a lot of prospective clients that come to us or just want to learn about what our services are, that you really need to have people that care. So when I talk to someone, I never care about anything except whether or not I can help them. I
Right.
don't care about how much money they make. I don't care about their gross revenue. I don't care about anything. Are you a good fit to work with our company? And can we actually help you? Can
Right.
we help you save money on taxes? Can we help
Right.
you get more organized? Can we help you make forward, financial decisions ahead of
Exactly.
time?
Right.
So those are all really super important things to I know you and myself.
Mhm.
And that's just how we roll,
It's our
Rachel.
core value.
Yes, that's
That's
just
the
how we
number
roll.
one thing, right? That's why we're so busy now because we have like an amazing business just because of that one thing. If people
Yeah.
just felt that I know accountants that are so after the money, they're going after looking for clients. Thank God we never had to do that because we're all about how can I help you? Can I help you? And then how I could help you. So
Mhm.
it's based on the core value, and that's why we're so successful in this business. We've been in business for 15 years and we still have clients coming back, and we really want to focus on helping business owners because there's so many things that they don't know, and
Mhm.
we're doing this for free, sharing this information with the world. And
Yeah.
right, and I mean, we're so busy and we really went out of the way to share this information with the world to help business owners be intentional if they decide to hire another
And
accounting.
we are so busy, you guys. It's tax season. We're in back-to-back meetings. We're
Right,
having managerial meetings. We're having brainstorming sessions. We are so busy. But
right,
this is important to us to be able to come on here and share this gold with you guys. And I really am looking forward to that next one that we do too, to go over the tax return, the key things on a tax return to look for so that you understand how to review it when your accountant shows it to you.
I can't wait for that. So let's go back.
Yes, it's going to be great. Sorry, yes, go ahead.
Okay, the next question you want to ask is, do they offer tax planning services? We've seen a lot of accountants, offer just tax prep, or they offer, bookkeeping and tax prep, but they don't offer tax planning services. They don't look at your numbers or your financials and say, hey, it may make sense for you to hire your spouse, or it may make sense for you to hire your children, or other things that you maybe put a couple of $1,000s into retirement because it's going to save you a couple of $100 or $1,000 in your taxable income. So you want somebody to be looking, at a bird's eye view, and not really also preparing your returns accurately, but telling you and giving you guidance onto what you need to do to save every single year. So that client that I mentioned earlier, the insurance broker, he was a single member LLC for 30 years or 25 to 30 years. His accountant never recommended him to be an S Corp. And if he just made that one change, he would have saved thousands of dollars in taxes. Just that one, right? That's crazy. That one entity change. And I remember he came into my office, I think 2 years ago, prior to COVID, or 3 years ago. And he said, Rachel, your 1 hour consultation. And it really went to my soul when he said that. He was speaking to my soul. It was crazy. He said, your 1 hour consultation, and Paul also spoke to him, gave me more value than my 30 years with my local prior accounting company. And I'm like,
unreal.
Oh my God.
How many times have we seen this though, Rachel? Literally, we had somebody recently that just by changing his entity saved him over 30K.
Right. Yep. I know. Yep. It's crazy. Exactly. It's really sad. So, and I don't think business owners really know. They just go to work. They work really hard. They're amazing, good people because they want to quit their job so they can make an impact in the world. Right? Because why would we work 80 hours a week to build something? I worked sometimes 100 hours a week in the past to build this company. I could have worked, 40 hours a week and just have a paycheck. But most business owners, they want to go out there because they have a major impact and they want to make a major impact and they have a passion for what they do. And it really hurts to see someone working so hard and just giving it all away. Because they're not smart with their finances. So
we have some comments, Rachel. Louis says, thank you for the valid info. This is truth towards your clients and to their clients. Ava says, many entrepreneurs told me to get an S Corp, but the CPA told me to get an LLC. So I listened to the professional. I still don't know if it was a waste. Ava, feel free to book a consultation with me. We can go over what you've got going on your financial and accounting side, and we can talk.
That should be our next meeting, by the way. Talk about LLC and S Corp and when it makes to change, when it makes sense to change, because that's a lot of people are confused about that.
Yeah, for sure. Send Rachel a private message, and the assistant will send you a link to book me.
Awesome. So back to what we were saying, you want to make sure that you have your bookkeeping accurate, your returns accurate, and obviously timely filed, but you also want to make sure that your CPA, your enrolled agent, is really giving you suggestions of what you should do to lower your taxes legally. There are a lot of strategies out there that we can help business owners save thousands of dollars in taxes. And it's just 2 to 4 strategies sometimes, right? But it's is your accountant doing it? And most accountants don't offer tax planning services. Most of the time, it's a separate company and you need to hire someone else. But at Empire Tax, we offer bookkeeping, payroll, sales tax. We file your corporate returns, your individual returns, and we help you with your tax planning as well, giving you guidance and suggestions of what you need to do to lower your taxes legally.
And it's not easy, by the way. A lot of people are like, oh, she's giving us the tips and tricks. We can just go implement those things on our own. Have fun, because it's not easy. Setting up the S Corp, paying yourself, getting workers' comp, doing all the little details that need to happen in order for you to make that plan go into fruition, it's not simple. You need a professional who's well versed in doing these plans and implementing them.
Right.
You know, creating the plan and implementation is a whole different story. It's a process. So
It is.
make sure that whoever is doing your tax planning does it all day, every day, and has a lot of experience doing it. It is a task. Hold on, Rachel. We have another.
Okay.
Ava says she sent a message on Facebook about talking next week. Awesome. Thanks so much, Ava. Go ahead, Rach. Sorry.
Awesome. And Madeline, you actually just brought a good point. I remember speaking to a client about a year ago, and he goes, I heard on YouTube that I'm able to hire my kids. And I remember Paul and I were on that call, and we go, okay, did you issue W-2s to them, or did you actually pay them? He goes, no, I just issued them 1099s at the end of the year. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, oh my God, you just did everything wrong, right? You're supposed to actually pay your kids. You have to document what they're doing. You can't just make up paying your kids and issue a 1099. The funds
Right.
have to go to the kids' account. You need to file a tax return for the kids. Like you said, it's a process. And if you want to do it, it has to be done right. And I said, first of all, it's illegal that you paid your kids and they didn't really work for you, right? Like they have to be working, and you need to keep, and by the way, the Department of Labor and the IRS really looks at that because they see people hiring their kids and they don't have, timesheets of what they're doing. If they're doing your social media, that's fine. If they're doing, typing a letter for you or cleaning your garbage or helping you with other things or scheduling things for you, that's fine. You have to keep track of what they're doing, because if not, the IRS won't allow the deduction, and you have to pay them hourly or like a normal hourly rate, and you have to actually put the funds in their account. If that's not done, if one thing is done wrong, the entire strategy is like it just gets messed up.
It's scratched out. Yeah. You won't be able to use it.
Right.
So yeah, that we talked about that in our last webinar. If anyone's interested in seeing that, we can send you guys the link to private message us about the top, I don't know how many we gave, top 7 or 8 strategies to implement for tax savings.
Planning. Yeah.
And we really get into deep in depth about some of those strategies. So if you guys want to learn more, feel free to reach out.
Okay. So the other question is, I think we went over this already. So do they work in entrepreneurs in your industry? If you're an Amazon seller, you want to make sure that they know the sales tax and Nexus rules. Are they familiar with e-commerce apps such as TaxJar, Inventory Lab, Payability, Amazon Reports? These are very basically weird reports for local accountants, and you want to make sure that they have experience with, reviewing Inventory Lab, reviewing your TaxJar, see where you have Nexus. Do they have Shopify experience, etc.? We have an e-commerce CPA on staff, and she's very well versed in e-commerce. So we are 100% covered, but a lot of accountants they don't know. It's very weird to them.
Right.
Okay, so how we can help you. So we have 3 goals in mind. We want to make sure that you save the most money in taxes legally. We want to make sure that you're compliant with the IRS in all states. And we want to reduce the risks of audit by helping you, prepare your returns and have a backup, like I mentioned, with the gift expense or the meals and entertainment. Well, not the entertainment because it's not applicable anymore, but your meals, making sure that you have the proper receipts and the bookkeeping and making your estimated tax payments quarterly and all that. So all of these goals should be every single business owner's goal every single year. And the only way you do it is really hiring an all-in-one accountant that helps you with everything from bookkeeping to payroll to sales tax to tax planning, because most accounting firms possibly just do tax prep, or they just do tax planning, or they just, and I'll tell you another story. I had a client who's a client. I had a new client come to us who's a client of ours now. And he thought that his accountant was doing his sales tax. And then he goes, Rachel, the sales tax department, I think he's in I don't remember what state it was, like Oklahoma or something, goes into his car shop and says, hey, you have 3 years worth of sales tax that you owe. And I said, oh my God. He goes, I thought my accountant was filing my sales tax, all this time. And she wasn't filing his sales tax. So you want to make sure that you have an accountant that helps you with everything under one umbrella.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I tell that's a big point
Yeah.
when I get on calls with people. You know, they're accountants, bookkeepers and tax accountants are two completely different things. But if you have one person or one firm that's able to kind of give you an all-inclusive service, it's so much more beneficial. So you have this person working with you month to month to upkeep your books, but on a quarterly basis, touch base with you to make sure that you're doing the estimates and doing everything that we need to do. But imagine working with one person all year long. You bought a new home, or you invested in this, or you had a new child, or whatever it is. When it's time to come do the tax, it's the turnover. There's no confusion there because it's streamlined.
Right.
So it really makes for a very well put together tax return, and a very accurate and well thought out tax return, because we working on you all year. This isn't just
Exactly.
seeing you once a year.
Right. They see the entire situation, the bird's eye view. They see your numbers. They could tell you how much payroll you need to be paying yourself. They could
Yeah.
review your sales tax because they have your bookkeeping numbers. They could prepare your corporate return, your individual return. And if you get any notices, they're able to help you with that too. And then tax planning. They know if you have kids. They know if you own a home. They know how
Yeah.
much money you have to see if you should, put money into a retirement account, and what makes the most sense specifically for you and your age and your financial goals. They know all of that and they could advise you. So having everyone under one umbrella is super important. And yeah.
We have some comments really quick.
Okay.
Lewis says your webinar is so on point. Thank you so much. Melissa says, I'm so happy. Thank you. I'm so happy you ladies are doing this. It's such an important topic. You're
Thank you.
welcome. We're happy to do it.
Yes,
And
we're so
Haroon
excited.
says, how would you describe the ideal relationship between one's accountant and a wealth advisor? Should there be communication regularly between the two of them, or is it the client's responsibility to speak to them separately? That's a really good question.
So we have a wealth advisor, we have a certified financial planner, and for some of our clients, we do a call with the tax manager and the wealth advisor every single quarter with the client to see what makes the most sense for them. So honestly, sometimes the client doesn't know where they need to invest their money, but the accountant would review their monthly financials or their quarterly financials, so the wealth advisor can give them suggestions on where they should invest their money. Now, I would also say that you always want to get like a second opinion. Even, I'm saying that with our advisor too. He's great. He's amazing, but you never know. You want to make sure that you do have a second advisor, assisting you, and because every advisor has their own advice and opinions. It's not like an accounting firm where you have to follow the IRS rules and regulations.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? So they could advise a 401k, and then another, like you could get a second opinion and they could say, no, you should invest into real estate. Also, you could also, like, I've had wealth advisors give me some advice, but my personal goals are very different. I personally don't want to put money into an IRA or a retirement plan. I want to invest money into real estate. That's my thing. And I love that. So I would ask, sorry, I would ask, the business owner, what are your goals? You want to build wealth, right? That's your goal. And you could put some of, they also say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you're interested in stocks, if you're interested in retirement, if you're interested in real estate, a wealth advisor can give you advice from their point of view, but you want to make sure that it matches with your goals too.
Is it appropriate for me to think that if I had a wealth advisor, I would just CC my accountant on everything? Whenever we talked, I would just do that, just so that they could always review the thread of the accounting or financials talk. Like,
right.
I would just literally CC both of them on any questions that I had on everything.
Right. Yeah, because you want to make sure that you're, the finance, like the accountant would tell you, this doesn't make sense, or this is what I recommend based on your specific financial, because a lot of times financial advisors may, and I've seen this, I mean, I don't know like they could tell you what's good for their pocket. I've seen it. They could say, oh, you should invest into X, Y, and Z. And then you don't really know if they're telling you the right advice, because they are getting, I believe they're getting a commission.
Commission or referral bonuses for whoever they refer to certain companies, right?
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yes. And Tony Robbins says that. He talks about it in his Money, the Masters the Game book, or there's another book, I forgot it. he says that most retirement, like there's a invisible leak in the account, and most of the fees go to the financial advisors. So that's why it just gets really scary. I want to mention that I had a lady come to me. She was in her 80s. She was a very cute lady. She came into my office and she goes, I've been investing into stocks and all these financial investments for years and I got nothing. And I'm like, really? She goes, yes, it was not worth, and I don't know how much she invested. It wasn't much, but I'm like, wow. She's like, yeah, all these financial advisors, they take a commission and look at all these fees that they take. And I've seen the fees. And it's like, okay, but you're investing your own money and all these fees are coming out. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know. In real estate, it's more physical, right? You buy a home for $500,000, $600,000 wherever you are, and then you're able to flip it. You're able to see money fast. You're able to do a 1031 exchange. You're able to, buy your own home. And then if you live in it for 2 years, and I don't know if people know it, there's a Section 121 law. If you live in your home for 2 years and you have a $500,000 profit, if you're married, you don't pay any tax on it. That's how people build wealth, right? If you're single, it's $250,000. If you're married, it's $500,000. You don't need to pay tax as long as you live in the home 2 out of the 5 years. I would rather do that all day than investing money into like stocks and other investments. But that's just me. So yeah, I hope I answered.
I had to laugh. Sorry, it's people can be so gullible sometimes. Lois says, "Don't laugh. This really happens to people on the regular," and it's true. But I'm personally laughing because my husband kind of did the same thing, and I'm just like, "You dummy!" But people do this, and I get it. Like it's insane to me how gullible I feel some people can be.
Right. Honestly, sorry.
No, I just think, I don't know, everyone's personality is different, but I would never just listen to one person's advice about how to put my finances or where I should put my money.
Exactly.
And I would never put all of my eggs in one basket either.
Right, exactly. I'm honestly like I don't know. I would never put money into like stocks or things like that. First, I would first buy your own home. If you don't have a physical home that you own, that's the first investment that every business owner like should do, because instead of you paying rent, it's your mortgage, and after 30 years, that's your retirement, right? You could sell it if you want. If you have a big home, you could, sell it and move into a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartment. I know people in their 60s, they don't have a home, or they're renting still, and it hurts. But they're investing in all these stocks and financial investors. But I'm like, you forgot the most important thing. Where do you live? That's the biggest expense, right? So that's what I would recommend. Yeah. Any other questions on there or no?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. So, yep. Thank you everybody for watching. We're so excited to help you, and thank you everybody for your feedback. It really helps to hear the feedback, because it really gives me energy to continue doing these weekly or bi-weekly, and your input and your feedback is super important. If you have any other insights or feedback, please message us on Facebook and let us know. We really want to hear it so we could become better and improve in our next presentation. We should also tell give everyone like a feedback form, so they could tell us what they want the next topic to be, and we're going to do it based on what what the market says, and we could always change it based on what they need and what they need help with, because we could talk about everything. We just want to make sure that we're helping them.
Right, absolutely. We want to make sure we're giving you guys value and you're taking the time and actually learning some stuff here. So yeah, we really look forward to the next one, you guys, and keep an eye out for an email from us. We'll shoot you guys an email when we have the next one ready. And in the meantime, if you guys need anything, please feel free to reach out to us at support@empiretaxusa.com.
Perfect. Thank you guys. Bye, everyone.
You.
Bye.